It's a situation that is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Inside the country, crowds are gathering, voices are rising, protests are spreading through major cities, and at the same time, above the skies, missiles are being launched, interceptions lighting up the night, sirens echoing through neighborhoods. Two very different kinds of pressure happening at the same time, and together, they're creating something far more complex than a single crisis. Because this is not just about external threats, and it's not just about internal unrest. It's about both colliding at once. And when that happens, the situation can change very quickly. For any nation, pressure usually comes from one direction, either from outside or from within. External threats are often met with unity. Internal divisions are often managed through political processes. But when both happen together, at the same time, the challenge becomes far greater. Because the focus is split, resources are divided, and decisions become more complicated. Right now, that is exactly the situation unfolding. In recent days, protests have begun to grow. At first, they were limited, small gatherings, localized expressions of frustration. But over time, they expanded. More people joined, more voices were heard, and the message became harder to ignore. Protests are often driven by many factors: economic concerns, political disagreements, public sentiment, and while each protest may have its own cause, the impact is often the same. It creates pressure on leadership, pressure on institutions, pressure on decision-making. As protests grow, the atmosphere changes. Streets become crowded, security presence increases, tension becomes visible, and even when protests remain peaceful, the uncertainty they create can be significant. Because large gatherings carry risk, not just of escalation, but of unpredictability. And in moments like these, even small incidents can have larger consequences. At the same time, a very different kind of pressure is unfolding. Missile activity, incoming threats, defensive systems activated, explosions in the sky. These events are immediate, loud, impossible to ignore, and they carry a different kind of urgency. Because unlike protests, they involve direct physical danger. What makes this situation unique is the timing, because these two pressures are not happening separately. They are overlapping. Protests during the day, sirens at night, internal tension, external threats, and together, they create a sense of continuous pressure. With little room to pause, little room to reset, responding to one crisis is difficult, responding to two is far more complex, because each requires attention, each demands resources, each carries consequences. Focusing too much on one may weaken the response to the other, and balancing both requires careful decision-making. Situations like this attract global attention because they raise important questions. How stable is the situation? How might it evolve? What are the wider implications? Governments, analysts, observers are all watching closely. Because when internal and external pressures combine, the outcome can affect more than just one country. One of the biggest concerns is escalation, not just from external actions, but from internal developments as well. Because tension inside a country can influence how it responds to outside threats, and external pressure can affect internal stability. This interaction creates risk, a feedback loop where one issue intensifies the other. Another factor is speed. Events are moving quickly, protests spreading, missile activity continuing, developments unfolding in real time. And when events move quickly, there is less time to react, less time to adjust, less time to prevent escalation. All of these factors point to one thing: a shift, a change in the nature of the situation. From isolated events to a combined challenge, from manageable pressure to layered complexity. And once a situation reaches this stage, it becomes harder to predict. Behind every headline, there are people, residents hearing sirens, families watching protests unfold, communities dealing with uncertainty. Because while analysis focuses on strategy, the experience is personal, immediate, real. This is the question that matters most. What happens next? Will tensions ease? Will protests stabilize? Will external threats decrease? Or will pressure continue to build? At this moment, there is no clear answer, only possibilities. Inside the streets, voices are rising. Outside the skies, missiles are falling. Two different forces, two different pressures, meeting at the same moment, and creating something far more complex than either one alone. Because this is what makes situations like this so difficult, not just the scale, but the combination, the overlap, the way one issue feeds into another. And right now, that combination is intensifying, step by step, moment by moment, until the situation becomes something else entirely, something more fragile, more uncertain, and more dangerous. Because when pressure comes from all sides, the margin for stability becomes smaller, and the outcome depends on what happens next.